I'd like to call the meeting of the Marshfield Concom to order. Time is 6:35. In the absence of the chair, I'm Vice Chair Bert O'Donnell. I'll be the chair tonight. In pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 related to certain COVID-19 measures, this will be a hybrid meeting, both Zoom and in person. In the event we lose the Zoom meeting, the meeting will continue. In this case tonight, Bill, I don't believe that's true, is it? Because we need the fourth,
Yeah,
need all four of us to have a quorum.
yeah, if you have a problem with anything other than Art, you're okay, but if Art kind of falls out, then we don't have a quorum, so Art, stay connected.
Okay, so we'll proceed, and
Yeah.
lately it's all been working well, so
Correct.
I think we're all right. No minutes, correct?
Ray, you want a second on that motion, Mr. Chair? For opening the hearing?
Yes, motion second.
Susan, Karen? Roll call
Susan,
vote?
Karen?
Susan Karen, yes.
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Joe Ring, yes.
Art?
yes.
It's a 4-0, Mr. Chairman. Okay, and no minutes, sorry about that, it's been a little
Okay,
rough.
so we'll move on to the business section. First of all, continued hearings.
Yes, good idea. That's on page,
I've got it.
yeah,
I'll just list them now, and then we'll go back later and do the continuances formally. 1327 Union Street, 76 Carolyn Circle, 12 Branch Street, 274 Foster Avenue, 202 Moraine Street, 0 Little's Lane, and 432 Ocean Street. All those hearings are continued.
okay. So there's 7 continuations for the public. It's on the agenda, scheduled continuations.
And now we can move on to the business items.
Correct.
Bill, if you can very briefly present those.
Absolutely,
They're all pretty
yeah.
simple.
The first one's a tree. We all heard about that. I got 3 verbals from commissioners. It was damaged. Part of it fell in the wetlands. It was going to get probably knocked over in the Saturday high wind event. And I got 2 written approvals also. Tree's been taken down. This led some conversations to thinking about a tree policy. My recommendation is to approve a de minimis activity for the hazard tree removal of the 25-foot setback to the BVW.
So I make a motion to approve that?
I would, yeah.
Second, Susan? Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Joe Ring, yes.
Art?
yes.
It's 4-0. Okay.
Unanimous, Bill?
Great. The tree policy, I think, Mr. Chairman, you and I spoke about this the other day. Probably a better item to table until we have enough players.
Yeah. Just to clarify, that will include more than just this type of emergency thing. This
Sure.
will,
Yeah.
we'll try to get a policy about where and when we can consider it de minimis and in an RDA, and
Be a great idea.
whether or not an NOI would be required for dangerous trees.
I'm all for that. So sorry about that. We'll table it.
Okay?
Next one. All right, 1192. Yeah, that's the Dewey property that was permitted over near Pilgrim on the South River. It had tight configuration. The commission had a 50-foot no disturb conservation markers. The new owner came in, and there's a tree sitting right on the 50-foot setback. And it's partially fallen into the 25 to 70 to 25 to 50. And, you know, it could fall into his 50 to 75. So it seems to me innocuous, and it probably should get removed. If you went down and saw it, it's diseased and ready to go.
Yeah, I make a motion to allow the tree to be cut at 1192 South River
Is it de minimis?
as a de minimis activity.
Second.
Second is Joe. Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
Art?
yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes. It's unanimous, Bill.
4-0. Okay, great. Okay, the next one is a emergency certification. I have the paperwork ready if you're willing to go this route. Rod Procaccino's here. He could probably best describe it. Rod, would you like to take the floor?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
So we had an emergency situation where we lost the water main crossing from Kent Park to Wrexham. And that particular crossing, there's basically two major connections that we have, and that's one of them. That will feed about 50% of our population on the southern end of town. The other one is across Main Street, 3A, and it ties into Ocean Street. So that connection is important because we have about 3,000 gallons per minute, well capacity that feeds through that particular water main, and at this point in time, whereas before it would split between going through Main Street and then going down South River and then to Kent Park and then across to Wrexham. So we had a complete loop at one time. The main broke across, and we had a difficult time keeping our tanks filled at the time. We had to shut down the valves on either side of the marsh. It's a couple of thousand feet across, and they remain shut today. So we have a situation where we have only one connection right now feeding from our telegraph tank and our major water supply. So the quickest way we can get a backup connection is to go through Willow Street. Now, when we put the South River water main in several years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, we left a stub, and then prior to that, in the mid-90s, we left a stub on Ocean Street for that connection. So I'm asking that we be allowed to expedite move. In fact, we've got our water main purchased, and that was we had to hunt around for that because right now 12-inch water main is scarce. Yeah, I mean the lead time on fittings, valves, hydrants is 6 to 8 months out. It's one of those. It's what we're experiencing now with everything. You just can't get the parts, but we got them. And we want to close the road down on Monday. We want to start if I can get the emergency certification. We want to start laying out the wattle and for the erosion control and start putting that water main. I have Pat Graham working on a design, and he has he's not quite finished yet, but because we're still working on a bridge, how to connect and go across that bridge. But so I'm asking tonight if I could get a declaration for emergency certification. It's very important that we have this backup. If we lose the water main across the Main Street, then there's only 2 pump stations supplying the low zone, and it's not sufficient to meet the demands.
Bill, you have any comments?
Rod told me about this, and he pulled this together really quickly. He's always been good about delivering. My one suggestion is that we should take advantage of the of the special conditions within the emergency certification and require a NOI in, I think, 120 days. He could probably do better, but that'll give him some leeway in case something else comes up.
Okay, and do I understand, Rod, it's all within the existing asphalt except where it crosses the bridge, so it's basically all in disturbed areas already?
That's correct. We'll be in the quarter point of the road. We are currently in the design phase of replacing the Willow Street Bridge. So we have a preliminary design, and we're going to line up the proposed bay where they plan on bringing utilities with the main that we, as we approach, we'll line it up so it'll fit that bay based on a preliminary design. That's not going to happen for a couple of years. We don't have the money to finish the final design yet, but and we don't have construction money for that bridge. But so in the meantime, we will most likely either attach it to the side of the bridge, which is questionable right now in terms of, you know, the actual, capabilities of that bridge right now, whether or not it can carry that additional load. And, we're looking into that, or we're gonna drive a pile, on either side of the abutment and then, have a beam go across and, and carry the water main on top of the beam adjacent to the bridge, within a couple of feet or so, and then come back in on the other side. So we'll kind of be using 45s to get it outside of the bridge footprint, and then parallel, and then back in on the other side as we move towards Ocean Street. So, those details haven't been worked out yet, but I gotta get going on the water main installation. It's gonna take about a month. And, the sooner we get it done, the better off we are, because when we start getting into high demand, there's a lot of flow that goes through that 12-inch main, and it puts a lot of pressure on, fittings and whatnot. And that bridge, the Main Street Bridge, yeah, that main's been in there for a long time, and it's risky to rely on that one connection.
Okay, thank you. Other commissioners, any comments?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's public safety and it's utilities, so.
Yep. So it's all-
Make a motion to accept the emergency, what do we call it, Bill? Emergency-
Certification?
Emergency certification.
For
Can I
the-
get a second?
Second.
Second is Joe. Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
Art?
Art Longi, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes. It's unanimous, Bill?
Got it, 400. All right,
Thank you, Rod, you got it.
Rod, we're getting signatures tonight. It'll be ready, and so you can start. I think I put your date for start, just so we're on the same page, which I can change if you have to. 4/1, April 1. Do you want
Thank
it?
you.
Okay, we'll give you a little breathing room there. Okay, because it's a 30-day start, as everybody knows. Okay.
Okay, Bill, 835 Plain Street.
Yeah, John, you want to come up and explain your project to the commissioners? John Moon's here for, no, you can just tell them, just announce yourself and who you are and why you're here.
John Moon, I work for Mr. Cushing, who is a trustee for Mill Pond Realty Trust. And we own the land that Connor's owned next to Smith now, next to the former Copeland Lumber. And we're looking, we aren't, our land has no wetlands. And we marked out the 100-foot buffer. We had marked out the wetlands on Connor's property, but now Connor, my understanding is, won't let you people on his property.
Me, pretty much, yeah.
So we marked out the 100-foot thing, and we want to be able to work in that area. We're gonna put the post up, 4x4 post with the decals every 50 feet along the 100-foot buffer zone along our property line is basically the 100-foot buffer zone. It bumps in a little bit. There's no wetlands on our property at all on that side. There is a small wetland on the right side on Copeland Smith's property on that side.
So this
It's already
is,
been signed off by the,
so this is just to allow you to go ahead with your cleanup
We
work
gotta clean up
outside
first
of our
and
jurisdiction. Outside of our jurisdiction.
they basically, the only thing that Bill wanted was the post up. We got a difference of opinion on the size of the posts. We're willing to put 4x4s up, and if any get disturbed during construction or whatever, we will replace them. You know, we gotta put up like 20 or 30 of them up doing that, you know, run, so.
So there's
Yeah,
an,
basically, it's outside the jurisdiction of Concom, but we're trying to be good good stewards here, and the land's a mess, we're trying to clean it up.
so just to kind of take it a next notch would be that there's an undeveloped Coldwater Creek down gradient that's been flagged by Brad Holmes. We can't get on it, or I can't, because Tim Connors has had his method. The A flags on the opposite side were approved under RDA 19-40, and there were 17 conservation markers over there. I saw 11 of them, so I got to get back and see there's 6. I'm sure they're there, I just got to check them out. And the idea was to put markers on the opposite side and the B flags, all of this is on the Brad Cushing property, and it's either at the 100 or it's up gradient of the 100. Either way it works. And so they'd like to get in there, do the work. They're going to have a lot going on. People are going to call, and obviously they don't want their operators going down the hill or bulldozing anything down gradient, because there's a beautiful cold water creek down below. Art, you could probably testify to that. We were on a snowy day and it was gorgeous. What'd you say? Art?
Yes,
Comments about that walk and the cold water creek?
well, we discussed it before. I mean, I think those, if you want to discuss all of that, you should read it off, Bill.
Well, I would say that we have an undeveloped cold water creek that Art and I clearly saw. There's going to be roughly 20 to 30 conservation markers at the 100-foot or property line, which would be up gradient, which Art and I agreed to. We walked every single flag. There were two types of series of flags. There was pink and yellow. And so they're overestimated, if anything. The only thing we don't have is, I haven't actually checked the wetland delineation. I don't think it's going to move significantly in any place, because there's no real signs except one where there's a area that looks to me like water feeds into the creek from the Brad Cushing property. So it's got a slope that looks like it might. So you might move 5 feet, but it's not going to be a big move. So I think if you accept this, then we know that the Brad Cushing operations, and if he rents out, no individual will go downstream gradient. It still leaves the opportunity for the Connor purchaser to work with the commission and finalize everything, but I think the same kind of logic should apply there if we get to that point. About right, Art?
Right.
Sounds good to me. Commissioners?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Make the motion to accept the conservation markers on the 835 Plain Street property. Have I got a second?
Second.
Second,
Susan
Susan?
Karen, yes.
Joe Ring, yes.
Art?
Art Long, yes.
Bert O'Donnell, yes, it's unanimous, Bill.
Okay, 4-0, okay. So the only thing is, I'd just like to make sure that we get confirmation on it, so
Oh, yeah.
I'll go back, we'll take some pictures. I want to see those 6 on the other side. That's a wrap. I'll just log it down in your file.
Once we put the markers on.
Yeah, and there's 6 on the opposite side and the B that I didn't get to see because it was just too wet and I didn't get in there. I'm sure they're there.
Yeah, I assume they're in.
Looks like you got your 4x4s. All right, until they fall.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you, guys.
See you later there, John. Nice working with you.
And Ms. Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hey,
All right, the next one, Mr. Amand is here from 36 Jana Way. I think everybody knows the history now, but I'll just paraphrase if you don't mind too much. There was a visit by Commissioner Loggy and Kilcoyne back in 2020 to look at some trees. The commissioner said an NOI with plantings would be appropriate. Subsequent to that, a tree at the 25 fell, dinged up a neighbor's property. They were good neighbors and worked it out, so no issues there. But Mr. Amand would like to remove the remaining trees in the wetland and not have any plantings and not have any NOI. I polled the commissioners. I got 1 for an RDA with -2, 4 with the commissioners saying NOI with no surveyed plan, and 2 suggested a site visit to better assess the situation. I spoke to Mr. Amand about that. He wanted to come here and present the materials that he has, just sent to us at about 5:15, 5:30 today. I believe that's right. And he's present now to talk to you.
So, just to clarify, I'm not.
Rick Amand from 36 Jana? Okay. Gotcha.
I'm not looking to take down the number of trees I came to you about last year. What I'm interested in is taking a leaning tree out that's there parallel to the one that fell during the storm, because that's leaning towards my property, my neighbor's property, and one leaning towards my house. I'm even planning on working with a tree professional to try to cut the tree in half. There's a branch that's leaning towards my house. I'm gonna try to save that tree and just cut off what is perilous to my home and my backyard. So I'm willing to plant a few replacement trees, but I just felt that to open up my existing order of conditions, to issue a notice of intent, hire a botanist to determine what plantings I put in was a little bit over the top. And, you know, it takes so long to get anybody to do the work anyhow that leaving my property in potentially risky, as far as I'm concerned, trees leaning, repairs. So I'm seeking a waiver from all that and permission to take down that tree and the one branch from that tree, but maybe the whole tree if it is determined that the tree wouldn't be salvageable.
Just understand on your sketch
Sure,
here,
yeah.
these two
Those
red
Yes,
ones,
sir.
and how about the one that already fell, is that?
That's located about, was located
Okay, so
there
that's
and-
not shown.
No, that's not, that's down.
And these green ones
They stay,
remain?
They remain. I had hoped to take several of these down before, but they do look healthier than I suggested, well, I thought they would. Because they do provide coverage from my house, from the wind also. I mean, they're pretty healthy, in my opinion.
And one of them, you're basically gonna prune it, or?
Yeah, there's a section, there's a picture in the file that I sent, and there was a typo on that letter. If you have copies of this letter.
We missed it, so don't tell us, okay?
Okay. Near the end, there's a picture of the notch, the V notch.
Yeah.
Tree 1 and 2, yeah,
That last page, turn the whole package over,
got it.
and you can see that the main branch is the one that is looking unhealthy. There's a broken limb off of that main branch. So the smaller one is more straight. I intend to try to leave that in place, unless it's possible.
Art, this came in last minute. I didn't get a chance to put it up on the Google Drive, so I can't really show it. It's basically a tree coming up. It's about 2 feet around, you see? So look about 2 feet around. And it splits. It's got a healthy leader going straight up, and it's got a V that's going cattywampus, they might say. And he's concerned about the big leader going to the left that's cattywampus. It's a word, I believe.
Discussion from commissioners?
My inclination is to be able to allow you to get hazardous trees out as quickly as possible and for us to make that feasible for you in whatever way we have to without you having to get a botanist or, and also whoever's taking out the trees, I assume, has experience,
Oh, yeah.
perhaps not an arborist or, but,
Absolutely
So-
professional, 30 years in the business.
so if you try to save the tree, they can
Yes.
give you the opinion about whether or not that's possible without leaving more danger there, I would assume.
I would say so, absolutely.
So that would be, that's my opinion.
I read it as well as trying to resolve 2.5 hazardous trees. And given our earlier discussion about trying to make it simpler for hazardous tree removal, I think it's appropriate to go that route.
Absolutely.
I would agree. Now, in your order of conditions for your garage, I think there's conservation posts on there?
There will be when it's complete, when I come back with, it
Okay.
finalized. Still finalizing getting it surveyed, which is taking a little longer than I had hoped. So it's getting close.
Art, have you got any comments?
Sorry?
Have you got comments on this?
No. The only thing, my only, well, I have one, and that is the same thing I'll say about the trees, is if they can cut them high enough and see if they'll come back.
What species are they?
Yeah, I mean, I call them swamp maples. I don't think that's the appropriate.
Red maple, yeah,
Okay,
that's
Yeah.
common.
they almost always come back, don't they?
Well, yeah, the one that I need to take down is leaning, you can see the picture, at about a.
Please.
So you're gonna leave the
60
stump?
degrees. Yeah, leave the stump 2 feet up so that it'll stay there and rot. It could come back at that height.
Sometimes what happens is, and even in forestry, they'll cut them and then 2 trunks will come back and they got more
Well,
wood.
let's say this.
And Art's trying to make that point.
Yeah, no, Art, if the other tree doesn't, if the department, or the tree cutter thinks that the whole tree can't be saved, or if the smaller limb is a hazard, if I take the bigger limb, I'll cut them both off at that height, which has got to be 15 feet high.
That's good.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, and I,
It gives them a chance to come back, and at least dump in there.
So you reduced it to 2 trees, right? And then the red dots on the red dots on your sketch.
Yeah, those two,
Yeah.
those are the 2 trees that were in question.
I could send him back that and say the 2 trees could be cut. It could be a de minimis under his open permit, which I don't think's expired yet. He has tolling most likely, so I would say you could utilize that so we can convert on this and get to where I was trying to be all day long with, and give him a de minimis.
So it's a de minimis activity within his permit?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the 2.5 trees, instead of just 2.
Yeah, well, there's one that already fell.
One took care of itself, right?
Okay.
There's one that will take care of itself if I don't do anything, but I'm afraid someone might get hurt, and then the other one as well, right? It just needs to be addressed.
It's
So
going
I
well
make a
for you.
motion, we consider the cutting of the 2 trees a de minimis activity.
Okay.
Second, Susan?
Susan, second? No,
Susan
she's,
Karen, yes.
okay.
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
All right.
Erlagi, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Okay, great solution. Well, thanks for your persistence.
Hey, thank
We
you.
might have to have you as a commissioner someday, you know?
Thank you, guys.
There you go.
Have a good night.
Good night.
All right, so I have to send you a form, so
Yeah.
get after me on that. I'm really behind, Sue.
Correct.
All righty, thank you. I didn't notice. Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Duly noted, the corrected form. Well done, sir. All right.
Okay, Bill, we're into the hearings. Have you got the legal notices?
Yeah, I got all that. Let me, I got it right in the package. Bear with me. I'm actually organized. This is Armstrong, right, Ridge Road?
Yep.
Okay, each one of these has it on it. Bert, I'm gonna hand you the file that you can hand off to. If you got most of these, Sue, that was it.
In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Code of Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. Public hearing will be held in Marshfield Conservation Commission, March 15th, to consider the notice of intent filed by David Armstrong, Armstrong Realty Trust, 29 Little's Lane, for replacement of a septic system at 196 Ridge Road. Have we got a presenter? Did I see Rick here? Rick? You're
Rick
muted,
Savant,
Rick.
you're muted, buddy. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
We hear you.
Excellent. Yeah, so as stated, Mr. Chair, septic repair, residential septic repair at 196 Ridge Road. This property is on the west side of Ridge Road, backs up to the salt marsh. The septic is replacing existing cesspool that's there. It's within the 100-foot buffer of the salt marsh to the rear, and a small portion of the piping for the system is in the riverfront outer riparian district for the South River, which is across the street. I did a supplemental plan that shows where the riverfront district intersects the property. But essentially, we're just doing a kind of a like-kind repair. It's a 3-bedroom house, we're doing a 3-bedroom septic system. It is slightly further away from the salt marks and the existing cesspool, and certainly a better setup for the groundwater table for our protection. We got a slope pond proposed during construction to prevent any runoff into the salt marsh. That's basically what we're proposing to do, is repair and upgrade that septic system there and protect the marsh during the process.
Bill, your comments?
I went to this site, I notified you and Rick that there was a pipe problem, there was some discharging going on from a, out-of-service pool prior, before I was in service. Stembeck and Taylor, the applicant, adjusted that and cut the pipe, so it's been put out of service completely. Stuff like this, Bert, I don't know if it's Ridge Road so tight that we want to try to put conservation markers up on the chain link fence or not. That's one addition, that's one thought. It would mean a revised plan by Friday at 12 noon. I'm not sure if the benefit of the markers versus the chasing down the plan is worth it, but it could be. You'd have it in perpetuity as a part of the as-built if you got it now.
Yeah, and we just use the existing fence.
Yeah. We can use Ziplocs to get it on there.
Zip ties on the fence, is that what you?
Yeah, because it got holes. You could tie it in and it'd be nice and tight.
Commissioners have any questions?
No
Sounds like an
problems.
improvement.
Yeah, I was over there yesterday. It's pretty straightforward, and I did see that pipe was removed, Bill.
Yep, I got
Um,
pictures also.
So, Rick, would you just be able to revise the drawing and put those conservation plaques on, 3 of them on the existing fence?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
I would suggest, Mr. Chair, that they would be on the two property edges so the neighbors could benefit from this messaging also, and one in the middle. Rick?
Yeah, I got that copy.
any other special conditions, Bill?
Just, let's do 12 noon Friday, Rick, so we can keep you rolling.
Yes,
Or sooner. We could take sooner. It's always good.
sooner, much sooner.
Okay.
In that case, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and issue special conditions. Have I got a second?
Second.
Second, Joe Ring. Susan?
Susan Karen, yes?
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
Art?
Art Loggy, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Good.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you very much, have a great night.
Dixon. Is Brad Holmes here yet? Yeah, there he is, okay.
Compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and the Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. Public hearing will be held for Marshfield Conservation Commission, Tuesday, March 1st, for a notice of intent filed by Joanna Dixon, 56 Hartford Road, to elevate single-family existing house. One point of order, I forgot to ask for public comments on the last hearing.
Well, just, we can either open it up or, yeah,
Anybody in on the meeting have any comments on the prior hearing? I hear none.
yeah, well,
Okay, thank you. So is Brad Holmes presenting this?
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes here with ECR, representing this notice of intent for 56 Hartford Road. The applicant is Joanna Dixon. We have received the DEP file number. What we're proposing is to bring the existing single-family residence into compliance with the FEMA flood regulations. There's an existing single-family home, driveway, patio, lawn, and landscaping. It's within the FEMA flood zone of 89 feet. It's also within the buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands. Proposing to do is to elevate the house and put it on a new foundation with FEMA compliant flood vents. There are no changes to the house or any other components of the property, other than the fact that we will need to add new stairs and an access platform so that we can get into the house now that it will be elevated. So there will be new stairways to get into the elevated house. We have submitted revised plans to bring everything up to compliance with the Marshall regulations. I have been able to coordinate with Bill, which has been very helpful. And we do have plans in that I hope you've been able to take a look at, but it's a fairly simple project. The only change is that we're bringing a non-compliant house up to current standards with a new foundation and flood vents. I think I'll leave it at that and open any questions you have.
Your comments, Bill?
yeah, Brad, the guy doing the plan missed the current FEMA firm. He put in the 2020. Andrew did point out that the 2020 is equal to the 2021, but our conservation permit checklist says current FEMA firm flood zones. So commissioners, I'd recommend doing that. We'd always want to be current. It can create some problems periodically. A lot of times they overlap. That's fine when that happens, but if they separate it, it's really bad news.
Yeah, we'll get that up in with the typo change from 2020 to 2021.
Let's do 12 noon Friday, the 18th, Brad.
No problem.
Okay.
Maybe I can beat Rick.
Yeah, we'll see. Rick's pretty quick.
And I saw a bunch of back and forth with the building commissioner, but that's all resolved.
Yeah, everything was just guiding from about this topic, and then Andrew had a couple comments for him that I'm sure he told him. I said, Andrew had said, my only comment based on the typical new concrete foundation detail as to is the interior grade must be at or lowest adjacent grade. Again, we're getting into building things. That's really his world, and we cover that under the conditions here. We basically say. Obtain all subsequent permits. That means go see the building department and do what they need done. go see ZBA and get what they need done, et cetera. So we don't have to go into that much detail, but Andrew's got that covered already.
Okay, comments from other commissioners?
I have no issues with this.
No issues.
Art? Any comments?
No,
I have none either. Seems pretty straightforward. Bill?
Brad, do you have erosion control on this property? I know it's flat.
Yes, we are proposing to put a silt fence, or I'm sorry, silt around the back of the property so we protect the offsite BBW.
So my comment there on page 11 will be appropriate. Ensure erosion control is in place and do not use hay.
Okay, so
Okay,
that's,
that's all I'm covering. Okay, Brad, we'll just cover that in the special conditions also. I just didn't see it on the plan, as I recall. It was a flat property, it's like 2 elevation, so I didn't want to get picayune about it, but we'll cover you on the special conditions.
all right.
Thank you.
Any comments from the public? I see none, I hear none. I make a motion to close the hearing and issue special conditions. Have I got a second?
Second?
Joe?
Second.
I,
Joe Ring? Art?
Art Loggy, yes.
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Bert O'Donnell, yes. It's unanimous, Bill.
Gotcha. Okay, Brad, 12 noon.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay. Nick?
The next one, have we opened it already?
Yeah, I think we have, actually. What happened was we had read it, I believe. I put down continued hearing, and it was on for the first, and then Nick got an additional information request, and he's back. So I think what happened is we continued on the first one.
Okay, so this is a continued hearing.
Yeah, you don't need to read the legal
Everything's
evidence.
been confirmed.
Yeah, no harm in that.
Susan is a hearing officer.
So this is the hearing for 3 Truant's Island for Joanne and Robert McLaughlin. It's a notice of intent to relocate an existing single-family house to a new foundation with a 322-square-foot addition to previously developed land. The resource areas are the land subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal bank, riverfront, and there's no natural heritage endangered species designations. Looks like a good project. We're moving a house out of the flood zone and further away from the resource areas. With that, Nicholas, right?
Yes, hello. Nicholas Lane from Brady Consulting on behalf of McLaughlin's. Thank you for having me back. I apologize for my entire survey ran late today. Didn't have time to work on change for you.
Oh, my.
It's all right, you're here.
Yeah.
So as was quite succinctly and appropriately described, the McLaughlins like to move their house further inland, get that out of, it's actually, I believe the deck itself is partially in the coastal bank resource area as it sits. They would like to pour a new foundation, pick the house up, move it over, and actually construct an addition at the same time as they move it over. We've proposed an erosion control of a silt fence around the majority of the property, as it is almost entirely all lawn with some landscaping hedgerows along the coast there. And due to the cost of construction and the fact that this is not their primary residence at the time, I'm not sure whether or not they're going to need to pick up the house and place it down somewhere off, not where the foundation is, while they pour the foundation, do that whole site, giving them some extra space so there's a place to place that house, where there is erosion control still in place to make sure that it's done safely and appropriately. As mentioned, there's a couple of different resource areas on here. The coastal bank land subject to coastal storm flowage as well as the flood zone. And I think that caused some confusion with all the different numbers.
You were just ahead of me, that's all. You were way ahead of me.
So the DEP under the Scenic Rivers Act does not count the North River as protruding a 20-foot area. So I have a previous cover table up top that shows some differing numbers between Marshfield and the DEP for that specific reason. I did have a few calculation errors that Bill spotted for me, so that was part of the issue. And I'll stop there and answer any questions if they have.
So,
I just had one question. The house was built in 1920, I believe. I read that in the narrative somewhere.
That's on the, according to the assessor's records.
According
yes.
to, okay, all right, because you had raised that as a question, Bill, so.
I did, I wanted that. You'd provided the 75 condo comment, so I just want to make sure we had that. Okay, good.
It does show on the original plan from 75, I think it's a bank court plan, this one actually here, 287B1. You can actually see that the cottage does exist at the time of this plan.
And that's October 6, 1975?
November 20th, 1974, actually.
November,
The registration, the plan is dated November 20th, 74. You're correct, October 6, 75 was the date.
Well, I got it right. October 6th, you said?
October 6, 1975, yes.
Okay, but the house was built in 29, right?
That's according to the assessor's records.
Gotcha, assessors. Well, all right,
Did you have any further anything?
No,
other
I just
questions
was-
you have, Bill?
I was just wanting to have that, because if it's before 72, then it's before the act, and so there's, exemptions because of that. So I wanted to get that out there, and this one's a very tough one when these come forward, and it also has an impact on how far they can go down to the resource area, so, but,
Is that it? Okay, do we have commissioner comments?
Sounds like a great thing, again.
Right.
Moving it out
Yeah,
Bert?
and up.
no, sounds
Art, do you
good.
have any comments on this?
Beautiful spot.
Yeah, you're good, okay. Do we have anybody from the, oh, I'm sorry, you're done, you have no more comments at this
well,
point?
we had the one about the planting.
Well, yeah, when we get
Okay.
to the conditions, we can talk about that. Well, actually, I'll bring it up right now. Bill was concerned that, actually, one of the things is the coastal bank being revegetated, and what are your plans to do that? And he would like to see a planting plan perhaps, so that we're specific about what's going in that resource area to protect that.
We didn't have any proposed plantings going in here. There's already existing hedgerow on the edge of
Okay.
basically almost the entire thing, except for where there's the fire
Right.
pit section here. And
Okay.
they planted some landscaping as well. I think actually when they were doing a couple things might have come slightly over the lot line when they revegetated it then. But we don't have anything proposed at this time.
The reason I brought this up to Susan was the other planting plan hasn't been initiated. We didn't have what we have now, which is, as soon as you get done with this step, you do the plantings, and then there's a sequence to get you through, because people drifted, and it was hard work to find everybody. So that planting plan's never started, so I wanted to merge the two. And I was thinking, when I was out in the field, this whole area has got a lot of devegetation going on. Our chair specifically called out a series of trees, I think they're arborvitae and cherry trees, in the 75 to 100 at 11 trounce. And she was concerned about that and said, if you can, please leave them, Because what's happening is progressively we're losing the tree line everywhere out there. And so we want to try to get that back, especially in the 0 to 25. So would they be amenable to maybe the SRE plan that they're doing at 4 trounce, merging with this one so we have something similar? Do you think they would like to go with that route?
What specifically did you have in mind other than just kind of merging?
I would
the
just
two?
take the planting plan from that plan, double it up, put it on 3 as well, and then we would merge everything here with the new conditions, and then we'll get them started as like the first planting plan after they complete the house here at 3. So that what'll happen is the spring planting would go, if they got done, say, in October or whatever, or you could have fall planting done if they got done in May or whatever. Does that kind of roll? Trying to merge the two, because it didn't get done. Same homeowner, we did have a little chat, and didn't really go far. So I was just curious if we could get the both jump started.
I could speak with them, but I'd be hesitant to speak on their behalf to say yes, given that if you were simply to take from 4, copy and paste over, this here, right around where this 18 contour is, annotation, if I recall correctly, that was about the extent of the planting plan for number 4. If we were to kind of mimic that over here, that's coming right up to the back of their house. And then they
It
also
makes
have
sense,
a
Nick. You speak wisdom here. What if we said, provide a native mitigation planting plan prepared by a qualified wetland scientist to be coordinated with the required planting plan for 4 Trounce Island under SC 422711? Now you have some flexibility.
I'm sure they'd be amenable to something like that, yeah.
Like that's
My only concern, if they're amenable to that, that's fine, is that from the 25, where the location of the current house as it exists, that there's native vegetation, some grasses there, not, turf grass needing fertilization, some appropriate grasses that would survive in that area, the wind and salt.
I'm
and-
certain it was definitely.
Yeah, so that's, as little disturbance as possible, and to hold that hill, the coastal bank. Okay, all right. Yeah, I believe that was in the narrative as well, and I read that somewhere that you were planning on using appropriate grasses on that hill. So if we could make sure that that's in the special conditions.
Yeah, we definitely, I try and recall exactly what you were saying. I had commented on the intent of replacing the vegetation where the existing house is,
Yes.
especially it being part of the coastal bank.
Right, exactly. We're making an improvement, so we want to continue that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do we have any other comments? Anybody? Does any comments from the audience? Anybody here from the public? Nope. You all satisfied? So seeing no comments, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing with special conditions. And the special condition, Bill, we don't have to read the
We don't have to
standard
re-
order of conditions, but
I'll just
the
pull out the
special
ones.
conditions,
Yeah, on behalf of the hearing officer, before commencing the work, there's a whole series of them, you know them all, Nick. And we're adding in, provide a native planning plan, mitigation planning plan prepared by a qualified wetland scientist to be coordinated with the required planning plan for Fort Trounce Island under SE 422711, especially in the footprint of the existing home. During construction, implement the approved native plant mitigation planting plans referenced above. Okay. The first spring or fall planting season after completing the home construction work activity as follows, and then I have a whole series of things. Fall, and it just tells them how to get to, go ahead.
I actually had a thought, if I may.
Okay.
What if we use the FEMA line as kind of our guideline as far as that planting plan goes? Again, if we just kind of follow the leads of the council, or they're walking out, have to do that, and they get out to the back.
Yeah, no, we can, we got your point. It doesn't have to be right up on the house. Susan would like, Commissioner Karen would like the footprint of the existing home vegetated. It sounded like grass would be sufficient. But we're looking for a planning plan. Somebody next door had done a plan, you could mimic that. But it doesn't have to be that much. We didn't say 15 feet, we didn't say 5, we didn't say 25. But, we need a planning plan.
Thank you, that's why I was
Yeah.
asking for clarification.
yeah, that
And it
makes
helps
sense.
us-
You don't want to be in the velocity.
And it helps jumpstart the other one, which never got started. Same
Seem
owners.
reasonable? Right? So we're all set with that. So may I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? You just saying all in favor? I'm
Used to
sorry.
that.
So
It's
you're
so
not
much
doing-
easier, isn't it?
Art Loggy,
Art Loggy, yes.
Joe Ring,
Joe Ring, yes.
Bert O'Donnell,
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Susan Karen, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we're all
Well
set.
done, Nick. Thanks for your
Luck.
patience doing,
Nice project.
teaching me something. Thank you.
We're
It's
all
not that
always
hard.
learning.
Okay.
So now we're on to the certificate.
Yeah, we can do, yeah,
Compliance.
that would be ideal.
First one is SC 42-0528,
Right.
88 Nantasket. We beat that to death. so-
Yeah, so I confirmed the markers are out there. There is a neighbor that's cutting pretty heavily to the right as you go to the back. I've been taught not to kind of pursue unless we're on a permit. So, I'm just letting you know that, these guys have probably got more vegetation than the neighbor does. The neighbor's starting to knock trees down. I can pay him a visit if you like, or let it be.
Well, that's a separate issue.
Understood, Mr. Chair.
I'd like to make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 88 Nantasket. Have I got a second?
Second.
Joe.
Second, Joe Ring.
Susan Karen, yes.
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
Art?
Art Loggy, yes.
Bert O'Donnell, yes. It's
Okay,
unanimous
4-0,
vote.
okay.
Next one is SE 42-1845, 62 Chandler. Again, do you have comments on that, Bill?
Just quickly, I worked with the applicants, both, or the homeowner, the new homeowner, and the prior homeowner. They're very nice, both people work together. They worked through Bob Crawford. I told them that you need probably conservation markers. They put 5 conservation markers to the rear. You can see these pictures on page 16 where they're located. Again, on 17, I got lots of pictures. There's one behind the shed, but it prevents them from going deeper into the vegetation there. Mr. Conley's a very nice individual. He bought the property. He was involved with the 27 Old Beach property that had an after the fact. He understands about the COCs. I've had a conversation with him. I'm feeling like this is done right here, so.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to issue this certificate of compliance for 62 Chandler.
Second.
Second is Susan.
Susan Karen, yes.
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
Art?
Art Loggy, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Or just so I'm clear on that one, this one would have ongoing conditions, so that these conservation markers are cited as part of the certificate of compliance. They're already on the as-built, but when somebody finds the certificate of compliance, they'll see the special condition, they'll start looking for that as-built to find those markers where they are. So I forgot to mention that, this would have ongoing conditions. It's pretty standard we do this. I don't think we
Yep.
need to go back and make a motion. I'll just capture it.
Okay, anything with conservation markers is gonna have it, right?
Yeah, correct. Who was the second on that, please?
Joe?
Joe?
Okay, and you got a roll call vote?
Yeah, didn't we?
I think
It's so long ago, right?
we
I've had a long time. I've had a
do it
long,
again if you're not sure.
I'm not sure at all. Is anybody else sure if we did a roll call vote? I guess it's done. All right. Yeah, the next one. '23.
All right, Bill, the next one is Highland Street?
Yeah, it's over by the pond over there, opposite Spring, or, yeah,
Sounds
So-
like you got some issues there.
yeah. I would, if you look at 24, you'll see the aerial of the property, page 24 there. So what's going on, it's got a tight configuration up against the property line. I could pull it up on the screen, or we could just look at this. And I guess Jay put a permit together in 2003 for a pool that was supposed to go directly behind the house. No fence was called out. The fill was not to be allowed to be closer than 25 feet away from the wetlands. And what's happened is you can see the pool configuration, it sticks out a little bit. There's also a fenced area. And I think, let me see if I can get this thing up and running here. 2 chats, what do we got? Cannot see anyone, audio is very soft. Okay. Kyle.
So these conditions are for the pool, the construction of the pool.
Correct, but what's happened is during the, can you come here and look at this chat? What's going on is there's a patio, there's a fence that was never permitted, there's a wood deck that was never permanent, there's a pipe going into a retaining wall that's wooden, that's basically in the wetlands, so there's fill going on as well. I don't know if the retaining wall that's wooden, nor the retaining wall that is brick had any permitting whatsoever. So I'm gonna try and get this, see if I can find, bear with me here real quick. Escape. I'm not gonna get out of here. Let's see. There we go. Bear with me. I'm not like my colleagues who are so quick with this stuff. Bear with me, Bert.
Okay, well, there was a presentation on this from what, Stenbeck and Taylor, was that it?
Yeah, but they're not here. I have to do this.
Green one at the bottom, Bill, in the center.
Yeah, I know. I'm not doing that because I'm trying to get this pulled up first so I don't make a nuisance of this. I've got a PDF of the pictures, if it'll just load. Working on it. Isn't that cute? Okay, there we go. I think this is the one.
Well, I would suggest like 62 Chandler, I mean, you had a lot of problems with that last time, came back this time, and you got it resolved, so.
Yeah, I thought I would show it to
Need
the...
our input on this, or can you?
Yeah, I would like to just go over it with you because the realtor visited me, you know, okay, what, is it coming up? All right. This is a quick slideshow. I'll present it to the commission. This is the property. Let me see if I can get through this pretty quick. These are the different site plans. If I zoom in on it, what you're gonna find is this, is that, rats, don't tell me I just made a mess out of this. Okay. You can see this line right along here. This is its 25-foot, no fill, no activity. But you can see over here, we don't have anything, but we have a patio in here suddenly. We have a deck here. The pool was supposed to go this way over here. It ended up coming out over here. The fence was never permitted at all. And then the fill that's back in, there's fill back in here. So I'll just run through this. Well, I gotta minus this out. This gives you an idea of the property configuration. It's this area in here, which is the trouble. You can see the wetland line that I added in that's similar to the permit from 2003. So this was the plan from 1996. This was an as-built, and you can see that the house is here, the wetlands are down here, and what's happened is there's now work going on here, retaining walls, there's patios, there's a wooden platform, There's a pool that comes out further than it was permitted later, and there's a fence that comes out in here, and all of it has fill as well. So all those have to be considered. This is the back part, this is going into the side of the house. I would say that that parking area was permitted because it seems to show up on the 1990 aerials. Here's the brick retaining wall. It's really not that big a deal. Probably be in the 50 to 100. This is down probably in the wetlands right here. See the pipe right down here. Patio not permitted. You got the wooden deck over here. Fill inside the 25. More of the same so you can see it. You catching that? I'm just going to fly through it. Same thing again. More of it. And you can see the fence starting to show up because we're moving to the back a little here. Concrete stairs were never put in, permitted. The fence is in. It was never permitted. Cutting going on down in the wetlands. There's fill. You can see the red maples here. There's like a 4-foot difference here. Those trees grew flat on their terrain, so this has got filled heavy. There's the back 40. That's fine. This is the footprint of the original approved plan from 2003. And you can see there's a ton of fill going on over here, and the trees again have got a big slope going on. And give you a little bit of idea. So this has clearly got to be an after the fact or some kind of corrective action in the tradition of the commission. But I did tell the realtor when she walked in, I said, I'll present it to the commission and see what they say. These are the things that are issues. If you want me to work on them, I'll work on them with the homeowners and the realtors, whoever. We'll try to come up with a solution. If you have ideas for me that you want me to pursue, I can also do that. So that's kind of what we're facing. And I can present that PDF to the commissioners so that they can think about it more. But it's just, there's an awful lot going on here. I don't think it's a clean pass.
There's a fair amount of additional non-permitted work in there.
Right, and when the new people come in, they're going to go further. And that's what happens all over the town. So we got to figure out, there's no conservation markers. They won't know about these old plans. And so it's an opportunity to communicate with them and educate them as well. Some of this might be allowable to the commission, but it's probably an after-the-fact filing at the bare minimum.
So an after the fact with a survey site plan?
Yeah, definitely. Because you don't have spot elevation or anything over there.
Yeah, I mean, I think to remove a lot of it might be create more problems than
Yeah, I agree.
than exist, but doing after the fact, and maybe we ask for some mitigation, in markers.
Yep.
It seems very similar to, remember Old Beach Road that had a ton of impervious that was added, and we did an after-the-fact
Yeah, right.
NOI, and
Yeah.
it was also, was that a sale as well?
Yeah, there have all been sales lately,
So is that, the seller's aware of this? Is this,
No, this
okay.
is news to them today. I've told Rick about it, and his response on this. Stembeck and Taylor's been in this since the 90s. This stuff happens.
That would make sense, some mitigation and markers, just educate.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we really haven't seen the site plan, but,
Correct.
with the impervious table and everything, it's a large lot, so I think
Yeah, it's a big lot.
the problem is some of the stuff is too close.
There's a 21-day requirement to turn these around. It's almost like you'd be better off to deny this, communicate with the proper part of the parties, get the after-the-fact filed. Once that's filed, then let them, and they record it. Then let them do the COC on this. So it's like a sequencing to get this done. Otherwise, they don't want it. There's no incentive to do that. Now we have to enforce, and nobody wants that at all.
I mean, that as-built you have, that's got most of the stuff on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think Stembeck's probably got a bunch of the materials kind of at their in their system.
So they're close.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so you wanted to discuss it, but we need to vote not to issue,
Well, I was just thinking about it. Well,
or table it, and,
yeah, I think if you table it, the 21-day thing kicks in, and now we're chasing it. We have a 3-week gap to the next hearing, so we'll blow the 3-week deadline in 1 week, because this is 2 weeks from roughly when they submitted. I don't have the material in front of me, but let's just say that you clearly will not make the 3 weeks that are in between now and the meeting on the 5th. So it might be just better to deny on it and then let them start fresh. I kind of get,
Moving so that they
yeah,
don't lose
so then
their-
run them in parallel,
If the homeowners were here and they volunteered for postponement, continuance, then we could have.
Right.
But they're not here,
Right.
so the best option is deny.
That's actually pretty well said, Joe. I think that's probably your best bet, then we don't have the 21-day thing, and find out that we exceeded that. They want their COC, and it's by right theirs.
Okay, so I make a motion to deny the certificate of compliance for 459 Highland Street. Do I get a second?
Second.
Susan?
Susan?
Oh, Susan Karen, yes.
Joe Ring, yes.
All right.
Art Longi, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Okay.
Unanimous, Bill.
All right, I know who to talk to, and we'll get that resolved. All right, so run in parallel with, okay, after the fact, NOI. To the public, just who's out there, sometimes this happens, we try to be creative and work whenever we can, but there's just too much going on this particular property. Yet, we'll still find a creative solution going forward to educate and get corrective action.
And next one is an extension for the DPW, correct, Bill?
Correct, yeah.
Anything you need to explain? Basically-
Well, technically, it would have expired on March 6th, but it has tolling due to the emergency declaration of 462 days, so it's clearly got more time. It's got 462 days from March 6th. What I've been trying to tell everybody, and this is for the public, if you've got a deadline looming, don't necessarily count on the tolling. It gets confusing. It's a $100 filing fee typically to get an extension, so think about that and how much it could save on a permit. We had one guy with a septic, he let it expire by 180 days, and he had to pay $5,000 more to get the surveying done and everything. So we just have limitations. So I always encourage you to get back and make sure that your permits are valid.
So for SC 42-2786, Marshfield DPW, Green Harbor dredging support, make a motion that we issue an extension
To 3/6/2025.
to March 6, 2025. Have I got a second? Second is
Susan.
Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Joe
Joe?
Ring, yes.
Art?
Art Longi, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Okay, another one. All righty. Thank you for your patience on that. All right, the next one appears to be an enforcement item. This one was intended to be an opportunity for the commission to meet town council, which is Alex Weishite. In this case, Bob Galvin has represented the Mahaneys in the past. So knowing that, he referred me to John Whitten and Alex. The town administrator is aware of this, and we're working in concert. And I had sent out a certified mail with the enforcement order that the commission directed me to prepare, and it came back. I tried to deliver it with a police officer, and we were not successful. But Alex was successful, and he sent his letter. So I wanted to meet Alex, who's now on the Zoom meeting. But serendipitously, the Mahaneys also contacted me on March 14th. So I spoke to Mrs. Mahaney, and she kind of shared some of her thoughts on it, and I suggested that they should attend tonight if it's possible for them, because it becomes even further serendipitous that we have an opportunity to maybe coordinate some of these loose ends. With that, Bert, is it okay if I introduce Alex? I've been talking to him for
Yep.
about 2 or 3 weeks. Alex, do you want to say a little bit about yourself and the case itself, and kind of go there?
Well, sure. Thanks, Bill. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Oh, great. Okay, well, Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Alex Blaisley from KP Law. Happy to help out the commission with trying to resolve this longstanding enforcement matter. I have had a chance to review some of the background documents and the most recent enforcement order that was issued. It's my understanding that based on the files I've seen, that there may be an issue with some excess fill that's been left at this property within jurisdictional areas, and that the commission is looking for submission of I guess initially delineations to be done on the property to determine the extent of the fill and what sort of jurisdictional areas have been impacted, and then also submission of a restoration plan to address any excess fill that's within jurisdiction. So happy to answer any questions and look forward to assisting the commission in any way I can.
Are the Mahaneys here?
Yes.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
All right. Mr. and Mrs. Mahaney are present. Okay. And it's Donna and James, correct? Got it. All right, I'm Bill. Nice to meet you. There's town council up there, and this is the commission, and then the commissioner up there on the right-hand corner is Art. He's in Florida right now. So we had there were 5 enforcement orders that showed up in the files, and there were 2 incomplete notice of intents as well. Some of this stuff seems like housekeeping. Some of it, has caused a neighbor some problems, and then you shared some new information with me. The commission's seen the enforcement order, so they know what it's all about. They're familiar with the history and everything, and you always try to make the best out of a complicated situation. So if you wanted to maybe explain to the commission what steps you've taken so we can get this on the record, that'd be helpful. It'll help Alex, help me, help you, and anybody else who's, in the area.
Well, back in 2015, I think it was, we came to several meetings here with Mr. O'Leary and his attorney. And at the time, Jay Wenham Jay Wenham was on the commission here. And he discussed with my husband, well, I guess you could probably tell him what you...
Just to give you an idea what happened, the whole history of it. It started out putting a retaining wall on Peabody Road. I opted to do that because there are retaining walls on Peabody Road, further up in the subdivision off of Carlton Road, so I thought I could put a retaining wall in. Then Mr. Clancy was the building commissioner at the time, and then he said, you cannot put a structure in Peabody Road if somebody complains about it. The other retaining walls that were there, nobody complained about, so that was that. So anyway, Mr. Clancy proceeds to tell me that I could put a natural fill and grade in there and utilize my half of Peabody Road. That's what I did. And then it wound up that we ended up going to Superior Court. I ended up having to pull out the fill that I put in and pull it back to my property line. And that's what I did. And in compliance with conservation, Jay asked me to put a membrane down with seeds where I removed the fill, and then hay bales, and I did that. Then Mr. Cherry O'Neill, he was in charge at the time, and he was the one that told me where I had to go, what I had to pull back, where I had to go back to my property line. This is the grade, and that's what I complied with, what his instructions were. So between Jay and Mr. O'Neill, I complied with what they wanted me to do. Then it became supposedly a water issue. So the water issue, I had to go through, the town had extended, when they put the new road in, street pavement, they extended the berm all the way down, probably about 300 feet up beyond our house. Preston Terrace pitches to my house, heads down the hill. So we're picking up water that's coming 300 feet up all Preston Terrace water comes down, hits PVD Road, and the berm ends. So all that water gets dumped right down into PVD Road, which ultimately winds up in Mr. O'Leary's basement. So I went and I had the town engineer come out. Jay came to me one day, I said, it's heavy rain's coming. He looked at it and he goes, yeah, I see where the water issue is. Then I went to the town, and the town engineers came down, they looked at it, and they decided that, they came back the next day, they shot grades. They thought a remedy could be to extend the berm all the way down to the corner of Ireland Road. That way we're getting rid of all the water. Well, then we shot the grades, it winds up where PVD Road is and Preston Terrace. That's the lowest point of Preston Terrace. So you could not put a berm to extend it. So then he said, the way to remedy this is to put in a catch basin, dig a pipe, diffuse it at the top of the tidal bank hill, and let the water go off of that. So that was his remedy, and he was gonna set up allocations to do that work, and then that's the last I heard. So I haven't heard from the town. They didn't do anything in terms of the catch basin, so we're still at the same point now where the water just dumps down PVD Road, coming from 300 feet up Preston Terrace.
So, the conversation about the catch basin, that was the last conversation?
Excuse me?
The conversation about the catch basin was the last conversation?
Correct.
Okay, who were you talking to in engineering?
Then I went.
Wait, sorry, I wasn't clear. Sorry about that, Mr. Mahaney. Who were you talking to about the catch basin in engineering?
Again, this is,
Okay, that's
this is
fine.
name, he's the dark-haired engineer. Okay.
Okay.
So, Bill, this was a long time ago. I was actually, just came on the commission.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
What jurisdiction, is this coastal bank? What's the jurisdiction that we're,
So,
we're conservation,
yeah.
we're not engineering?
Correct, I know that. So we got riverfront and we have coastal bank and the 100-foot setback there. I don't think I don't think a bordering vegetated wetland is well established in this area in general, just based on experience. So we're looking at coastal bank based on engineering. They would be using 92-1 to determine that. Also, the riverfront is going to probably be a downgrading of that 100. So we don't have a true delineation. The enforcement orders, when I did look at them, they call out a variety of different resource areas, but without the delineation, the commission can't act because you don't have design freeze. So that's like number one that needs to happen. There were complaints about plantings and there's complaints about fill. I can let Alex talk a little bit, or town council talk a little bit more about how that plays in over time, whether or not that erodes or if that is statutes are still there. So we can also get that out so the commission has a taste for that. And then we can probably set up something and start working with the Mahaneys.
Alex, your comments after reviewing this?
So, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing everyone, but my understanding was that, there's fill, that there's concern, there's excess fill in potential jurisdictional areas on the property. As members of the commission probably know, leaving fill within jurisdictional areas is considered an ongoing violation of both the Wetland Protection Act and your local bylaw. I think the commission is within its authority to request that delineations be done to determine the extent of that fill, and then, request potential removal or other mitigation measures to deal with the excess fill as needed. And I agree with Bill that I think the first step needs to be to determine the scope of the excess fill, and you can only do that if you know the delineations of where the resource areas are in the property and where the fill is placed in proximity to those resource areas.
Right, and then some of the fill might just be out of the, it might be out of jurisdiction, and then that is not impacting. Now, there is a section of Chapter 505 that if the commission determines that even if it's above and beyond the defined resource areas or the buffer zone is also a resource area, that the commission can bring that in. So in other words, you could add 100 or 300 feet, but I would suggest that you justify very, very carefully, but have that option. So, you know, I'd like to try to get this on a constructive pathway. This is, a lot's taken place since December, when we sent out our letter, and then when Mrs. Mahaney called on Monday, thank you so much. You know, I'd like to work with the commissioner and Alex and the Mahaneys, and, you know, if there's anybody else who wants to talk about this, want to hear from them as well. But, you know, enforcement can be a mechanism for solving problems as much as it seems like it's got stigma to it. So it's a pathway to get the stuff taken care of that's been lingering. So, are you guys available typically? Okay. I'm pretty busy, but I imagine you got some plans, and I would like to get some deadlines if we could.
Oh, can I just interrupt you? I just have one
Absolutely.
question. Who is Mr. O'Leary? Was he, that was
The
in the very-
neighbor.
Oh, your neighbor, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
And then okay.
Yeah,
I was confused
Well,
about
the thing
the
of it
town
is,
officials. I was losing the, okay.
right,
There's a lot of players, yeah.
yeah. That's the next door neighbor.
I would propose this. It might seem a little ridiculous, but it'd help out. We just had a different aspect of the project, and some of that I have to go back and find out what did engineering and who was involved, et cetera, and what did they have, where were we that was positive, so that mitigation that Alex is referring to and get back on track. Mr. Mahaney talked about a catch basin. That might have solved some of the water and flood control issues right there and then, so that's possibly part of the mitigation, et cetera. So I want to merge this all quickly and not have it take a lot of time. I would like to see, would you be willing to put together like a timeline, since you kind of like have a handle on it pretty well, and maybe submit it? I don't want to put you in a position where you're in trouble, but you know, we need some information so we can close the loop. Sounds like engineering should get brought in. I know you've talked to a variety of building commissioners. We've got a new one.
I talked to DPW, and I talked to the lady at engineering. He was supposed to call me.
Okay, we can get there.
Bill, do I remember right that there was a notice of intent submitted, but in that design had some kind of drain system?
Maybe, yeah.
I think there was some issues with it.
Could be. I didn't review it in detail. I know it exists, and there were 2 notice of intents. But what we want to do is we want to have a committed effort and be done in 60 to 90 days with the design freeze, and then we'll know how much of the stuff is actually in and out, and then we can figure out what needs to be done. How's that sound, like 60 to 90 days? So, Alex, am I in my rights to do this, and we can coordinate with the Mahaneys and ask for a narrative? I'm not asking for a lot of detail. I'm like asking for a timeline, you know, like a schedule or something like that, what happened when, because we have a different look at it. I've got conservation orders of condition or notice of intents. I have enforcement orders, and then there's ZBA also, which we're not going there right now. So the sooner we can get that, if you could get it to me by, I don't know, Friday, is that possible? You got my email now? All right, I'm going to share it with Alex. This is all constructive thing. I may select a commissioner to help me out with this. It'd probably be our chair. Chair O'Donnell is chairing tonight, but I was thinking about Chair Hannafin. She's familiar with Alex and John Witten, and we can work this through. She's easy to work with too. Not that Bert's not. It's just, it was already started that way, you know? All right, so I'm seeing us get a narrative from you, and then we have a hearing on the 5th. I'm seeing by maybe the 19th. You know, we're closing the loop on a lot of loose ends. You may need to hire either an engineer for the coastal bank, because what they do is they evaluate coastal bank by engineering. It's the change in the grade. It goes from like a 4-to-1 to a 10-to-1, and where that break happens, you basically have the coastal bank. So it's not a delineation by plants. So we need an engineer, and you're going to need an engineer anyways at some point for some kind of a plan. So there's a little bit of activity required here as part of your restoration plan, which is on like page 2 of your enforcement order. So when you go into Form 9, you'll see it says when it's due. I'd also like to get a little relief for the Mahaneys. They came through as soon as they got the letter from Attorney Weishut. They were due on like the 18th of January to provide the restoration plan. Maybe we can give them out till April 19th or see how it goes, you know? It's a month, you know? Most people can take care of it in a month.
It's been years, whatever.
Yeah, but everybody takes care of it in a month, and then we get it done. So, is that okay with the commission to move out the 18th of January to April 19th for the record?
Is April 19th enough?
It's more than a month right now. And we usually give
Doesn't
about a
answer the
month.
question. Is
Is it enough?
isn't enough.
Um,
We've been for a long time. If we go another couple of weeks, instead of hearing back or not, is that reasonable? Because you're trying to get a lot of things done too. You got a new staff person to bring on. How's that all going to fit in? a month?
perfectly, on the 19th of April.
Okay, if you think so.
I'd like to shoot for that, and if we don't make it, then we'll give them another 30 days.
I like that.
Art, you good with that?
Yep.
Art, you okay?
Yep.
What do you think, Alex? Can we do it?
It sounds very reasonable to me.
Mr. Haney, you good with that? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Could you kind of, again, let me know what we have to do?
There's a thing called a restoration plan, and typically what happens is there's a plan. It's going to be a 24 by 36. It's going to be a surveyed plan. We need to know what the resource areas are, like where's the riverfront in this area. It kind of moves around over the South River, meaning it's not always in the same spot. It's based on, a coastal river is based upon the mean high water. So it's going to be about 3.9 to about 4.2. Again, you need the engineer. The coastal bank will be based on 92.1-1, which is a Mass DEP policy. The engineer will know what's going on. They'll find the break and they'll establish that. Once they get that, they can also go back and they can show where the fill was, where the grades were, and say, look, you're fine. These are all out, these are in, you got to deal with this. Meanwhile, your narrative that you're going to provide, I can go talk to whoever's left around from the engineers, et cetera. I talk to Jay periodically, so I can close the loop pretty quick on that. But if you give me information, I can help. And then we can close the loop. And we may be looking at a mitigation of a catch basin of some kind. I don't know yet. But we got to try to move in that direction. I'll assist where I can.
You had a notice of intent before, so it should have had some of that information in it.
Yeah, we're going to look at that. I haven't looked at it intimately, but now that we're at the point.
Speaking to the Mahaneys.
Oh, I
mean,
see what you're saying.
they paid
Okay.
for it. They've got one done somewhere.
I can give you the materials if you don't have it. We'll give you a whole copy of the file so that you have the materials. Whatever we have, you can have.
I remember vaguely.
Okay.
So that'll help you a little bit,
If
you
they
know?
don't- They could just update
But we
it.
have new rules and regulations for the requirements for enforcement and also for notice of intent and other conservation permitting as well. So I'll provide all that to you, so you have it. And if I get your narrative by Friday.
Do we need a vote on this?
Yeah, I'd say vote till, extend the restoration plan requirement from January 18th to April 19th.
Motion to extend to April 19th. Have I got a second?
Second,
Second, Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Joan, yes.
All right.
Art Luggy, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Who's the second on the bird?
Susan.
Gotcha, 4-0, roll call. All right, so if you can get the narrative together, and then Craig's just getting back from a trip to the British Virgin Islands. Maybe early next week, we can all connect. We'll sit down and we'll talk, and then we'll go through the file, like Bert's saying, that's a good tool. I'll give you a digital of it, or I'll get you copies of it, okay?
Okay.
And then Alex will also keep in the loop, so that we make sure that we're moving this through in a productive way. Okay? All right then, great. Nice seeing you, nice meeting you. Okay. All right.
Good day.
Good night, take care.
All right, thank you.
I'm not standing up for any reason other than I got a cramp in my leg.
Understood,
I wanted to make
understood.
an address.
Yeah, right.
I think he wants to take the next couple of hearings.
You get that.
All right, we're on to
That might,
You're on to the next one.
B8, Bill.
Yeah, that's tabled. They
That's
would like
tabled.
more time. But while I have the commissioners here, here's what I heard from commissioners when I called and spoke to them. Let's see. Everybody seemed like no as-built. The conservation markers were all up. The plantings in the road, DPW had gotten in there and done a number. And so, no on that. A couple commissioners mentioned green waste. And one commissioner, I think it was Craig, had mentioned the plantings behind the fence. And that's what I picked up in general. Does that seem kind of right? I mean, for those who went?
I think Craig may have, I can't put words in her mouth, but we looked through the fence and we saw some plantings inside the fence. As I recall, when all of us were back behind the
Yep.
fence, we were pretty well satisfied with what was there, weren't we? It looked pretty well underserved.
Yeah, it was just a little bit of grass clipping, some green waste dumping, not a lot, but there was some that we thought that was it. I didn't think we had any other concerns.
Art, you were there too. What do you recall about behind the fence? Did we want anything further there?
I'm trying to remember whether it was the markers.
No, Art, it wasn't.
Markers are all done, I think.
Yeah, they're 100% up. I got photos of it. I drove by. Everybody's told me that.
Sorry.
No worries. Different property, maybe. So, I mean, there's also a fence. Somebody mentioned the fence that never got, that's a brand new fence. I think you're letting that go, but I'm not sure, because, you know, what are the people having to put up fences and get, permits? She's under enforcement. You can capture it, and just say it's part of it. Like I said to the Mahaney's, once you've got that mechanism moving, you want to try to use it as a positive tool rather than the negative side of it. And it seems to me that talking about the fence, reminding them that they're getting the fence, they're getting the as-bilt's in the enforcement order, and the commission's waiving it. The commission's waiving the plantings that are in the road because DPW redid the road. You're just down to green waste and some plantings that I think Craig mentioned in the back of the back 40. But I don't know how you want to deal with it. I mean, this could be close to a disillusion letter.
Yeah, I thought they wanted to speak to us. I thought that was...
Yeah.
I tried to get them in tonight, and they said they had professional conflicts. They'd like to move that, so I said the 5th.
This is her operating day. She had mentioned that before.
That's fine.
Surgery day,
I moved
so-
tomorrow. I think what I'm going to do is encapsulate all the enforcement. We've had a tough time with the February 15th date that got not posted. We've been having a very difficult time with 2 people trying to manage everything, so we need a break. And there's so much coming, so I would probably push this all out, the Mahaney's, this one to the 19th, when we can digest it. I will have had some time with a new individual who's working on, joining us on April, and just be a little bit more in groove.
Okay, so you've got your information, so this one is, B8 is tabled
Yeah.
for tonight.
Yeah.
So moving on to B9.
Okay. Is anybody here for 987 Ocean? Okay. Let me call Brad, because...
Actually, I saw,
Wasn't Brad on?
well, Brad was there, but also, Riverhawk, Bob Rigo.
Bob Rigo, yeah, I don't know, maybe they didn't know. I just assume they always know.
I'd say good night.
So, do I recall right that Bob Rigo was on? Maybe I...
Bob?
Maybe, but I don't.
We have a public meeting going on, and you guys are on for enforcement, for 980s, yeah. Okay, you're almost finishing Norwell? Okay. How soon do you think it'd be? We have to do some continuation stuff, we could... All right, check in after that, okay? Mr. Chairman, Mr. Rigo, who is the lead on this, is in Norwell.
Okay.
And he said he'll join, they're together, the 2 of them. And Brad did advise that they're gonna have to kind of play hopscotch. And maybe we could do the continuations,
Yeah, very good.
and then we'll return to this one. Sorry, Alex. Quick.
Okay, Bill, have you got the legal ad for 1327 Union? That's new, right?
Yeah, that is you. Let's go again. That's, I'm gonna have to go and find it and read it. I do, but I believe it's in the office. So if you did the other ones,
All right.
and then I'll go get that for you.
76 Carolyn Circle, Gomes Dock System, SC 42-2950. They've requested a continuation to April 19th, 2022. Make a motion that we continue that hearing. Second?
Second? Oh, sorry.
Second is Susan. Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
Art?
Art Augie, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes. It's unanimous. And 12 Branch Street, SE 42-2951. They have requested to continue till April 5th, 2022. Have I got a second?
Second.
Second is Joe. Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
Art? Art?
Yes or no, Art?
Art?
Art, can you
Vote.
hear us? Okay, Art. Okay. We have to stop until we get him back.
We can see you moving, Art, but we
Art,
can't hear you.
can you vote on that last one?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Okay. And Bert O'Donnell, yes. That was, and 274 Foster Avenue, SC 42-2958. Applicant has requested a continuation to May 3rd, 2022. Have I got a second?
Second.
Joe?
Second is Joe. Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Art?
Art Augie, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes. It's unanimous.
Joe Ring, yes.
And
Joe Ring,
oh,
yeah.
sorry, Joe.
He seconded,
Make sure
but
we get it all right.
he also needs a
Teamwork.
roll call.
And
Well,
next,
Just
no
needs-
next one is 202 Moraine Street,
Uh-huh.
SC 42-2960. Applicant has requested to continue to April 5th, 2022. Have I got a second?
Second.
Susan?
Susan.
And Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
Art?
Art Augie, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Okay, 400.
And 0 Little's Lane, SE 42-2966. Request to continue until 4/19/2022, so I make a motion to continue until 4/19/2022. Have I got a second?
Joe Ring, the second.
Joe? Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Art?
Art Augie, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes, that one's unanimous. And finally, 432 Ocean Street, SE 42-2971. Continue till April 5th, 2022. Have I got a second?
Second.
Second.
Oh, give it to
Take
Art.
Susan?
No. Art gets nothing.
Give it to Art.
And
No,
Susan?
give it
Karen,
anything to
yes.
Art. Art's
Joe?
dropped the ball.
Joe Ring, yes.
Art? Art?
Art Augie, yes.
And
Finally,
Bert?
Art.
Yes.
Okay, then. All right, these guys, oh, Bob Rigo's here, so perfect timing, Bob Rigo. Oh, okay, you wanted the one the
Okay,
first
remember,
one.
we have to go back to Union Street, Phil.
Well, I give, the file's right there, Bert. Just to your 11 o'clock, your 11.
In compliance with regulations, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. Public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission, March 15th, to consider request to amend the order of conditions filed by Thomas and Marianne Digan, 1327 Union Street, Marshfield, to modify dock, gangway, float, riverfront area. Bill, to confirm, taxes paid,
Yes,
abutters,
yes.
and DEP file number.
It's the same one as it was back when they first started.
Okay, so we're opening this hearing, and we've got a request to continue until April 5th, 2022. So I make a motion to continue that hearing. Have I got a second?
Second.
Second is Susan. And your vote, Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
Art?
Art Augie, yes.
And Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Okay, 400. Great, so we did everything but 987. We got Brad Holmes even, and we have Mr. Rigo. So, I'm gonna try to do, I'm gonna try to get the revised plan. Let's see if I can do this. I am not too clever here. Just hang on, everybody. Business items, Ocean Street. Okay, the one I call Rev 2, which is Bob Rigo. There it is. Okay.
The latest update is a relocated flag, is that right?
Yeah, so far what it is one flag, but there's always stuff, you know. Okay. Okay, recognize that, Bob? Bob, one quick question for you. Bottom right-hand corner, it says 1 of 2. Is there actually a second page or not?
Probably not. That's
All
probably
right, I got,
typographical error.
being you involved, I got scared, that's all. Okay, no worries. Meaning that I thought I was missing the second page, and I just want to be sure. What do you want to do? Bert, you're the hearing officer on this one.
Yeah,
Bill, I'm having a really difficult time hearing you. I don't know if you asked me to start or not.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can definitely hear you.
how about the rest of us, Bob?
The people in the hearing room, I have a difficult time hearing, but anyone who's on remote, I can hear very well.
All right, interesting. You got it, Bert.
Okay, so you're having difficulty hearing me right now?
It's a little difficult still.
Okay. Well, we're hearing you fine, so if you're gonna make the presentation, go ahead.
Okay, I'm ready then. For the record, my name is Bob Rigo. I'm with Riverhawk Environmental. Here, Brad Holmes is also here tonight to support me in this presentation of this. As you know, there was an enforcement order filed. There was some unpermitted clearing that occurred in the border vegetated wetlands in the buffer zone at 987 Ocean Street. The owner cleared the land. It's kind of a previously disturbed area that's been overgrown with some fairly dense vegetation, most of it invasive, and it makes for really tough to get around. So as part of plans to potentially develop the property, they thought they were being proactive and cleared some paths for both the surveyors and the botanists to get through and delineate the wetlands, but in doing that, got a little carried away and cleared into the wetlands and actually cut down some small trees along the way. So in response to that, we met out to the site. Commissioner O'Donnell, Bill Grafton, myself, the property owners, and Brad Holmes met and walked the site and took a look at what occurred. We were asked to prepare a plan that showed the limits of the clearing and then also any tree with greater than a 3-inch caliper. We located by survey and showed that on the plan that's presented in front of you. We then, as part of it, I had Brad delineate the border vegetated wetlands. They had been delineated by others several times out there, so there was some back and forth about the line, but I believe Brad was able to go out there, meet Bill out there, discuss the line and come to an agreement on good science of where the location of the line is. There was one flag, 829 on the western portion. It's actually off-site. That got moved about 15 feet. We went back out, so it's marked as 829R, the revised location. So we went back out, located that, and then showed on the plan and submitted the revised plans to you. Brad has worked on a couple of potential restoration. I don't know if the commission's at the point now where they want to discuss those options, but Brad's come up with two kind of different options for restoration of the area.
Bill, your comments?
Yeah, there's been 2 Brad Holmes reports also. The first one was, I believe, January 20th, yes. And it was his memo with the two alternatives. One was heavy on like 54 plants, I believe, 54 trees, let's see, they were 5 to 6 footers. And it also had, it had some smaller trees as well, actually 28 5 to 6 footers, 59 1.5 to 2 foot shrubs, and then vegetation. And alternative 2, he was looking at restoration, including 14 5 to 6 foot trees with seed mix, both of them had seed mix, clearing historic garbage, which I agree with, invasive management, including herbicide treatment by a licensed herbicide applicator with ongoing mowing or cutting or hand pulling or root extraction, followed by supplemental plantings and maintenance of restoration via irrigation. Okay, so that's what came in on January 20th to think about. Then he and I went out and we looked at this area right here around flag 24. Right here, I'm circling on the, right now I'm circling on the screen, 24. It had multiple flags. We took the Brook Monroe flag out here, and Brad did 2 soil pits down about 27 to 33 inches. We hit soggy soils. The composition was non-hydric. It didn't have the rhinomorphic characteristics and properties. It wasn't clayed out, etc. So then we moved down here to this area here, which is a little bit in dispute, and I want to show you a few things. There's a red maple that's probably 80 years old, a few a few willows, but I don't think it's going to qualify as a isolated vegetative wetland, and it doesn't meet the criteria, even though it's got a depression not shown necessarily by Bob's pickup, because you can't get everything on a property. It was holding about 2 inches of water, and one of those other nubs, which we think is got to do with the cell tower, was out about here. So where I am, there was a nub. Right here is an 80-year-old red maple, or what about something along that line, and wetland willows as well. So I'd asked to have this flag moved out, and Brad said no. So that's that. We moved to like 26. I believe we did a soil sample right in the pit, didn't we? Yeah, that's right. We did one right in the water, and it didn't come up hydric. So I just want the commission to know all those facts. If you also notice, the 50 is out, I believe, right about here. And that's going to be something that kind of has my attention and what I'd like to suggest to the commission. We went over here. We had long discussions. I moved 29, and we had a couple soil samples over here. To Brad's credit, he did transects on all of those, which are basically when you take the soil plots, you look at the characteristics, you tell how deep it is, and whether or not ultimately it's hydric or not. And they all struck out, and they were non-hydric because they didn't have the properties. I will note that we used an auger. We did not use in this disturbed area the USACE methodology, which is to use a tiled spade. I'm not really pushing that. I'm just saying we didn't do it. I don't think it's going to change it much. We used an auger. An auger has a tendency to combine as you go down, and that's why if you want a really clean transect, you need to go with a tiled spade. So progressively, we need to move into that. This area is heavily disturbed, and in my write-up, I think that there is 2 levels of fill. In here, just common soils that are non-hydric. Out in here, more commercial grade. And there's garbage in there and commercial grade, etc. And the elevations speak to that too. You're talking about 5 to 6 up in here and 3 to 4 down in here. So there's kind of a drop-off, you might say. And interestingly, this area over here is kind of part right along the 50, but also in the lower elevation area. When I was looking at the plan, Bob, I had some questions. This dashed puppy right here, okay? This. When I looked at the key over here, let me see if I can find it. It says mean annual high water.
Yeah, that's a little different line type, but that's just the zoning setback line. So that we can just take off the plan. That's a meaningless line.
Is that an error? Is that what you're saying?
It's just the zoning setback line. It's a little different line type than what's just shown in the legend.
Can you elaborate? Because I'm not sure I get it.
Oh, your setbacks from your property lines, is that it?
Setback from property line, yes.
Why does it say mean annual high water?
For us,
I don't think he didn't meant that.
I'm sorry.
Why does it say mean annual high water?
I guess it's incorrect, Bill.
All right, that's fine, Brett. That's fine.
It's not the double dash.
Yeah, not a worry. I'd rather have it be a typo than I'm missing a resource. So maybe we can clean that up. All right, so, fine. So I guess the only thing I'm saying to the commission is this area in here, which I'd like to see if I can, I'm gonna see if I can get, some pictures. And, how did I do that? Bear with me, everybody.
Phil, do you mind if I jump in quick while you're pulling that up?
Hold on, Brad. Let me see if I can get this done real quick. And then you'll have 100%, and then I won't be saying anything. Let me see what I've got here. This, oh my God. I think I maxed out the Google Drive. Okay. Okay. All right. This isn't going according to plan, so I'm gonna try something a little different. Stop sharing. See how I do now. This is the wet area right here, okay? These are the willows. A buck has kind of worked itself over here. This is the red maple I'm talking about. This is the commercial grade slope that I'm talking about. So this just doesn't qualify as isolated land subject to flooding under the bylaw, nor most likely we'll give it 400 square feet of vegetation. But let me see if I can get this other stuff fixed also here.
Well, there was no cutting in that area either, was it, Bill?
No, but that's how it used to be before it got annihilated. So, let's see. The nub, I think, is here. I don't want to keep opening pictures and strike out. Nope, it isn't there. Let's see, stop sharing. One more. No. Bear with me. Sorry I'm slow at this. Brad's here. That means it's this one. See this right here? Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't shared it yet. Okay, hang on. Share screen. All right, so I want to share. Okay. Let's see.
While Bill is working on that, have you had any communication with Ms. Donahue, the abutter, that some of the cutting took place on her property?
I have not.
I have not either.
I have not either, Bert, so it's all three of us.
I'm not sure if the landowner is on the line, but they may have, but I'm unsure.
I didn't happen to see that name. It seems like at some point she needs to be involved.
No doubt, because it went onto her property. Just to continue my quick, so here is the, we saw a bunch of these out there also. These are called nubs, and they're faded. They're the remainder of wetland flaggings. It's up gradient of the 25 and 26, which are way down here. Here's Brad's color right here, you can see him. And here's the wetland area, which is not going to qualify. And the 50 sort of goes along right in here, right through this. So somebody at some point in time flagged this out, and they met up with the 50, which is part of the current proposal. And I just want to make the commission kind of aware of this. Brad did drive a auger into here, and the soils did not met out to be hydric, so we moved on. But I think that there's two ways for the commission to protect it. One, you move the wetland line. Two, you close off an area through the enforcement, like maybe at the 50-foot setback with conservation markers. That would capture and protect this area here. And then the commercial area, which I kind of cited before, let that stay. And it needs to get treated too, because, there's garbage and there may be leaking liquids as well. Commission doesn't do leaking liquids. They would go to the fire department for that, and they would go to other entities. So anyways, it's just something to think about as you move forward, and they also want to develop this area as well. So I just want to point this out, these anomalies. This would have been more like what this place was like. You'd have swampy waters, and you'd have these large trees here. This is an eastern red cedar, which is very mature also. So this is the fringe right around what the original wetland was like. And this is probably a staghorn sumac, which is a colonizing plant, but typically upland. So you got two uplands, you got your wetland creatures over here, but you don't have enough to meet the bylaw, and the soil with the auger did not met out. So that's kind of where you are. I think that I may have exhausted what I have to say. I think on page 28 you can see there's a large container that's teetering on the edge of the construction area. And with time that'll get filled in some more to support it as the encroachment continues. So now is the opportunity to close off with conservation markers and provide protection. After all, down gradient is the Bass Creek. And I didn't see any vernal pools, but it might support rare animals because natural heritage is involved. And the last thing I'd say is, if they haven't applied for the MISA yet, they need to do that because the natural heritage has also required a MISA filing, and they've said that this is possibly in violation of their requirements, and no work shall commence until that is both submitted to Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program, and also a determination is returned to the to the Homesies. So I think that's it. And I kind of like Brad's plan too better, but more robust. And 50-foot conservation markers, personally.
Okay. So are we thinking about the 50?
Guys, okay if I jump in? Oh, this is still on the screen?
Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, do you want to control the screen, Brad, or do you want me to?
No, well, hold that for a minute, hold that picture for a minute if you don't mind.
Understood.
Bring back to the site plan.
This one here?
Yes, so that flag could be any flag, and I think what that is the remains of a marker for a concrete mound, and I'll show you where we're right in that vicinity of a property line. But that, Bill and I did look at this area, and we had a lot of snow melt. Everything is trying to drain out. It's just not. It's separated from the wetland. It didn't meet any size threshold, and I go along right with Bill on site, and we work together. But I'm sticking to the science, and that's not, in my opinion, an extension of the bordering vegetated wetland. And if you go back to the site plan, you'll see that nub, which isn't always just wetland flags. It could be a survey marker, or it could be anything that surveyors set. It falls right in line with a boundary, right in that. See that nub? See that property corner right there?
You trying to see it's out here?
Not that one. No, not the other one. Further down, right above 826.
Okay, you're saying this?
Right there. That's what I think that probably was for, but I just wanted to explain that piece of it.
So that's an interesting take real quick, Commissioners, because I found these nubs all over the place, nowhere near property edges either. So somebody was in there and did a wetland line at some point. Brad could be right, I could be right.
Well, what's the point of that, Bill? I mean,
Well, it's important for you to understand that there were 4 wetland delineations at one point in time. I just gave you some plants and I gave you a damp area. It kind of tells you where the wetlands were. Right now, Brad's correct, we do not have any jurisdiction. But what you do have control over is, are you going to set conservation markers at nothing on 25, 50, 75, 100? I'm encouraging you to do the 50 based upon this. I'm not saying you're getting the wetland line moved, but I've been trying to help the commission protect this area. I know the neighbors, who are 7 or 8 of them, are pretty irate, and they want to know when the trees are going to go in. So they want protection over there. They're seeing this now. They're feeling the wind. The trees are falling in their area. One tree was uprooted. It had like a 12-foot ball, and it created a nice gap underneath it. Eventually, it's going to probably operate as a vernal pool because it's got enough depth. So, and it's also natural heritage area as well. So that's where I'm going.
If I can jump in quick on the restoration proposal, what I put together was 2 alternatives. I think I know what the commission's looking for. Fortunately, I've had a number of restoration projects that seem to come my way. But the typical restoration with shrubs and saplings based, appropriate setting and revegetate the area would be your option number one, just generally put. And generally put, option number two would be to more of a improvement to the site. This is a hammered site. It's almost entirely invasive. It's got a lot of past debris and things that probably predate a lot of the regulations, so that the option two would be to go in and clean it up and try to come up with more of a repair and ongoing invasive plant management. But that's crafted so that you guys can talk about it, or maybe look for a different direction, but I put it out there for discussion.
So, Bill, you were leaning towards Brad's second plan, but with the conservation markers.
Correct, and maybe, he said supplemental plantings. I like the original plan, moving iteratively towards the 59 smaller and the 28 larger. So in other words, merge 1 and 2 and get all the good benefits of that, and then close off the 50, but that's not my call, I just kind of suggesting it. I'm not trying to be argumentative, I'm just trying to show you, we do have a hammered site here. There's a lot of invasive out there, there's a lot of opportunistic, but there's a few signs left over where what it was like was very similar to that large maple I showed you, the willows where the buck was rubbing, and the low depressed area. That was what it was like, and then that eastern red cedar tells you that that's where the upland really was. Now, the whole thing, no matter where you dig, is altered, it seems like that, but at some point in time, it was more wetland.
I like the idea of number 2 and the 50.
I think, in general, I agree with that. I think we have to look at what they may want to use the property for. The 50 runs right through that existing structure. Have you got a sense for what the owners want to do there?
In terms of development of the property, or like?
Yes. Because you could go two ways. You could do a more extensive restoration, maintain as much property as possible, or if you're willing to go back to the 50, then we can work a little bit on the restoration plan. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I for some reason I'm having a difficult time hearing the people at the meeting physically. Yeah,
I mean, I may be speaking ahead of myself for the commissioners.
But what you said makes sense to me. I think we need to know.
What we were asked to do initially was just kind of look at what the highest and best use for the potential property is, but it does have extensive wetlands, and it's fairly limited in terms of what the future development might bring. We might have to cut a little piece off the abutting property at 969 and add it and move any development or any proposed work out to the front part of the site and away from the wetlands, and kind of just clean up the rear area. If that's, depending on what we have to do in terms of restoration or replication of this.
And we do need to hear from Misa, too, before we can decide anything.
So do we continue it because we haven't heard from Misa?
You probably have to, you can't do any work, so even if you approve,
Yeah.
there's no work allowed until they give a determination. Have you guys applied to MISA yet, Bob?
I'm not, no.
Okay, well, that's an answer.
I will do it tomorrow. We were prepared, but they ended up filing the notice of intent with the commission, so I never sent it off to me, so I'll do that tomorrow.
Okay, they need like 30 days, as you know. So that's what we have. Now, so you need 30 days. The 19th, there we go. Let's get back here on the 19th of April. It's a lucky
So-
number.
So general preference of the commission was the conservation markers at the 50?
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Art like said.
okay, and, you know, that's sort of a gain for us, so what additional, what changed from the restoration plan that we had in front of us, Bill? What more?
I agree. If I was just sitting commissioner, I might be saying things differently. If the commission gets to 50, then I don't think you need the 28 and 59 plants. I think that they're giving you 14 right out of the gate, and then some level of supplemental that Brad can provide to you that's reasonable, because you're giving up the 50. Now, you're gonna have herbicide going on in there. You know, there's gonna be regular intervals of that, as well as the plantings that are gonna get irrigated.
And that also includes the cleanup of the debris in there.
Right, because that's part of his alternative too. So, yeah, less plants will probably be fine, you know, because there's stuff gonna grow back. I mean, I was gonna bring up, there's a lot of small caliper stuff that's not shown in this plan, but it's just, you know, you have to kick it and trip on it and dig it with a rake. It's hard to find, you know. You can only find it by the stalk is here, the stump is down below. That's how you luck out.
So Bob and Brad, did you hear all that?
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. I'm having the most difficult time hearing Bill when he speaks.
I'm gonna try now, Bob, is that better?
That is definitely better.
Can you move the microphone closer to you?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna bring it the microphone. I'm gonna repeat what I said. If the Conservation Commission, I said this first, I said if I was a sitting Conservation Commissioner, I might be looking at it slightly differently. When you're Conservation Administrator, you want all the marbles, but Conservation Commissioners have to strike a balance. They're in a very unique position. So if I put that hat on, the 50-foot conservation markers, no touchdown gradient, go with Brad's fabulous alternative number 2. You don't need to merge in the 28 5 to 6 footers and the 59 1 to 3 footers, I think it is. We could do something much less less heavy on the plants, because the 50-foot setback is protected, and that'll do its own job, especially if there is treatment of the invasives and the opportunistic plants such as grapevine and staghorn sumac and those kind of things. Did you get that, Bob?
I did.
Plus, we need meat.
I'm sorry?
I was gonna say, Mesa's needed, so that we get there, we're gonna have to merge with them on this, okay? But they only have a small portion of the property, so if you look at it carefully, I'm gonna see if I get it right here, it's not a tremendous amount of the property. It's, it's this blue line right here, I believe. Okay, so you can see it's away. So Mesa should be able to solve this in a decent time frame, and then the commission can do its work pretty quickly. With a little encouragement, Bob, you never know, you might be able to get a response out of Natural Heritage. They are working remotely, but if you give them everything in one place, give them your version 2, give them the alternatives from Brad, January 2022, and also maybe give them the current plan, the memo from Brad, those 3 things along with your MISA, maybe they'll move it along, you know?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to comment on the 50-foot conservation markers. How many, what's the spacing between them? I'd like that spelled out.
75 feet is plenty for me.
Bill suggested 75 feet. It's a pretty long line. I think that would be acceptable.
I mean, we could do 75 would be acceptable if that's acceptable to the commission.
I think that works.
And we could pretty it up with birdhouses and stuff, you know? Did you catch that, Bob?
I didn't hear what you said.
Good idea, Bob. Good
Oh, okay.
idea.
I said, yeah,
I
well,
can hear Arthur and I can hear Brad perfectly.
I said you could pretty it up with the birdhouses, right? Then you get the, you know what you're gonna pick up when you do that? Aesthetic values under the, wetland values, under the bylaw immediately.
Now, the final concern I have is that other property. How do we handle that, Bill?
So, there are certain neighbors that come down all the time. She has not.
But she was in on the original hearing.
I agree.
She actually spoke, so she's definitely concerned.
I would suggest making contact with her, Bob. I'm not sure if she travels or what, but she wanted to know how this would work out. I think personally, Mr. Holmesy and that homeowner should coordinate and give access, and then, you know, once the plan's done, she's got the comfort that the plan is approved by the commission and that you've got Brad Holmes and it's gonna get done right. So, you know what I mean? I think somebody needs to make that connection.
Yeah, we'll work with the client and make sure that, that she is contacted or the owner of that property is contacted and that they're happy with what gets done in terms of replanting of, you know, trees or whatever it is on that portion of the area that got done.
Right. We're not trying to strong arm you or anything. We're looking at alternative 2 with conservation markers. She's not gonna have conservation markers in her property, though. I don't think that's not the intent
No, yeah,
there.
we can't do that.
Only on his property, the 50. So the conservation markers would be on the Holmesy property, 987, I think 969 Ocean only.
Yeah, I mean, I think she was interested in just keeping her property wooded and keep as much of a buffer as possible.
Correct. So she'll be probably pretty happy to find out that a plan's come through and that it's gonna get delivered for her. I would think, but I don't speak for her, neither does the commission, so that has to be arranged. It's a little tricky. So coordinate with, homeowner who got impacted. Okay.
And I expect the remainder of the abutters will be just satisfied with it, with the wetland lines and everything. They don't have to worry about anything happening close to them.
Yeah, I think they're pretty worried about development, and I think they're worried about the wind impacts, and they're worried about their own aesthetics as well.
So, do we need anything further on this matter, Bill?
I'd say table this until the 19th with deliverables being the MISA feedback. Let's see, a modified Brad Holmes alternative 2, and conservation markers at the 50, every 75 feet on the Holmesy properties, plural, there are 2 parcels. And we'll meet back here on the 19th of April.
Is that
Okay,
a motion?
Bob,
Did you catch all that, Bob?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't mean to be rude.
Does that need to be a motion?
I would move it as a motion, yeah. So,
If you make a motion, Bert, I'll second it.
Okay, a motion that will return to with further developed plan on the 15th.
19th of April.
April 19th?
April
Correct.
19th. A second?
Second.
Susan?
Karen, yes.
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
Art?
Art Loggy, yes.
Bert O'Donnell? Yes.
Okay, Bob and Brad, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I believe that's it, Bert.
I believe that's the end of the list, right?
Oh my God, this is so hard to prepare this.
Let's double check.
That can't be.
I did Digan, right?
You did Digan, and you read the legal ad. It's sitting right there. I gotta get that back from you. You
All
did
right.
all the other ones. I was out for Trockey and Carolyn Circle, and all the other ones got done.
Okay, and
I feel like you're done.
I've got the seconds for you on those.
Okay, let me grab those before we part ways.
You got them all?
Yeah.
I was writing them down, too. Try to give you a hand.
What do you got?
Union Street with Susan.
Yeah, Susan, I got a 400.
Carolyn Circle was
Yep.
Susan.
Okay, 400.
12 Branch was Joe.
Okay, I got that.
274 Foster was Joe.
Okay, I got that.
202 Moraine was Susan.
Correct.
0 Littles Lane was Joe.
Yeah.
And 432 Ocean was Susan.
Wow, you guys are pulling through on the seconds.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting at
All right,
8:45.
nobody go. Art, your turn, your big drum roll. Art, are you second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Finally.
Okay, roll call vote. Art?
Right to be engaged, yes. Art Lonnie, yes.
Joe?
Joe Ring, yes.
Susan?
Susan Karen, yes.
Bert O'Donnell, yes.
Wow, 400. The only thing that didn't get done is the minutes, rats.
It's like a half
You guys
day.
in 3 weeks.
All right, have a nice time in
few
Florida.
weeks. Enjoy yourself.
All right, everybody out there, we're closing down now. Thank you so much for your time.